listening to Not So Live from Asteroid G, saying our name 5 times in the mirror. I'm your host, Mike Finkelstein.
And your buddy Mike the Ghoul here, hook, hand, and all, gonna talk some fun stuff, right? More horror.
More horror. That's primarily what this podcast is about at this point. Occasionally we talk football or something else, but mostly it's horror.
We try to stay in our lane because it's fun.
Today we are going to be talking about Candyman, with the whole franchise, which I don't think we've covered much, maybe a little bit. But
A little bit.
But now we can talk about the recent movie from, I think, 2021 that came out that I finally watched and I got you to watch so we can actually discuss it.
Yes.
So, yes. Candyman, which it's a franchise. Okay, it's not a franchise I love. It's a single movie before this that I loved and 2 terrible sequels that no one should ever watch.
Yeah. The first one was rather revolutionary. Mm-hmm. It's one of those, classic 90s horror slashers. Like, it lives up there in the pantheon of, Friday the 13th and stuff like that. It's that good of an original horror. I equated a lot to, the first Hellraiser. Very much, unexpected, something different, something cool, and just, bloody and gory. And Tony Todd. I mean... what a villain.
He was great.
What a villain.
He was so good. He deserved to have a franchise better than this, although the first movie is phenomenal. But he deserved to have sequels that could live up to the first one. And unfortunately, while the first one was built on a Clive Barker story that was pretty good, the sequels just came out of nowhere and were basically about white women being... It's so weird because the first, I get it. The first movie is a white woman getting stalked by a black man because she goes digging around where she's not supposed to. It's almost a inversion of the white savior trope. She goes sticking her nose where she shouldn't, and then she gets punished for it, which it's a valid story. But then
more white people sticking their nose where they don't belong.
Right? We all know better. Come on.
Oh yeah.
And then the other 2 movies are white women somehow are connected to Candyman, and then he wants to mate and kill them even though they're his family. It's really... I don't understand where they wandered with these movies.
It's very odd. I don't remember much of the second one. Third one I never even watched because the second one was so pitiful. I remember the first one was good, and I was a little impressed with this one. I think it has its flaws for sure, but I did not... This was one of those, requels that I think did some things right, and some things were a little strange.
It's interesting, because I have a different take, and the fact that I really loved it. So, we get to disagree for once!
Yes,
which is always good for material.
Yes.
So, the basics of the story are that a black man, not a white woman, which I really appreciated, learns about the Candyman myth and goes digging around it and basically gets sucked into it and, spoilers, ends up becoming part of it. I'm not going to say more than that because I do want people to go and look into it, but pretty early on in the movie it starts hinting that he's getting absorbed into the mythology of Candyman, not just intellectually but physically.
Yeah,
so
you can really feel the breakdown of his character and his psyche throughout the movie. It's slowly breaking down to the point where he's just he just loses it at the end.
And it leads to a very interesting and deep story that's unlike the previous Candyman stories we got. And it also does a bit of mythology world building at the end that I thought was kind of really neat, connecting it to a larger arc that they could explore if they ever do sequels, which I don't know if they're ever going to, because this one was financially successful, but only by a tiny degree.
Yeah, they got $25 million budget on a box office of 77.4. So three times its money back. Successful by modern terms. Didn't lose money, which is always a plus.
No, but it's also one of those things where Hollywood looks at it and says if it doesn't make 9 digits, then it doesn't really count as a success, even though it was, by Hollywood math, successful.
True.
Hollywood's dumb. But, no, I really I thought, the mood was evocative. It really tapped into it. It was the first Candyman movie since the original of the 4. That was, actually creepy and scary at times. Had great gore, had good effects, had some really interesting shots. There was the shot where he's in the elevator of mirrors, that was interesting.
Yes,
The sequence where the girls in the bathroom are stalked by the hand, which I'm come on. My favorite part of that was they say it 4 times and then a door slams and the Asian girl looks up and goes, nah, and she immediately turns and walks.
The one girl that makes it out, the non-white girl who was smart.
I know, right? Which
Yeah,
it's also a part of it. It's like all the girls that died in that sequence were white. The girls that
yeah,
escaped it weren't,
yeah.
making a specific implication. And I think if you went back and watched I think all the people that died in this movie, unlike in previous ones, were white. So, like,
Mm,
this one actually has like more connection to the story, and it does a bit of retconning, yes, sure, but
sure,
like it,
sure.
it does it in sake of actually building a bigger mythology, which I appreciated.
Yeah, I feel like this is a movie that if it came out now would get absolutely roasted for those
Oh
kind of statistics.
yeah,
You
wow.
know, I really think so. Like I gotta watch it again, but I think you're right. I think that there was no minority killed in the movie. I think they were all white people, which
Mm-hmm.
holds true with the lore, holds kind of true with how Candyman was kind of conceived and conceptualized back in the day. And again, not spoiling too many stories because we want you guys to go and see it.
Mm-hmm.
But they really tap into the lore and the history of it. It went back farther than kind of I actually almost expected. I was really surprised.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it does change the lore a bit, because I think like in the first movie, like some other black people died, and definitely,
Mhm.
what was it? Helen, I think it's her name.
Helen, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Helen's roommate or best friend or whoever who's working on the project with her, she dies
Mhm.
and she's black. So this movie
Yeah.
like does away with that and doesn't want any specifically black people to die, which I don't
Hmm.
necessarily like. This is a racially charged movie in a racially charged time,
Yes.
and
Yes.
he's one of the few black slasher characters. So I don't have a
Hmm.
problem with that. That they've changed his motivations a bit, because it's been long enough. They can do a bit of retconning.
Yeah, and
And
then
yeah.
he almost was going to get one of them in there, but someone else took care of it instead.
Hmm.
There was one minority. I'm just going to say that, not to give away male or
Yeah.
female, that had it coming, and someone got it that I wasn't expecting to kill him, and I was like, or them, and I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Hmm.
Didn't see that coming,
Does
but
and it
yeah,
doesn't violate the rules they're setting up either, because he's not the one to do it.
that's right, that's
So
right.
yeah, no, it was interesting. I liked it in those respects and thought like that was cool. I think I would probably agree with you that maybe part of the first act, a bit of the second act could have used a little retooling, a little tightening, because it takes, despite us seeing the build up, it takes a little
Mhm.
time to get going, I think.
Yeah, there are moments where there's a little too much of the build up and a little too much of like I guess exposition or what's going on. It was a crisp 90-minute movie too. It really could have been 10-15 minutes longer. I think they really kind of crushed through that third act because I
They
think they
did.
realized after the first and second act they're like, oh, we are a little bit out of time here on our constraints and we got to kind of hammer through this. And the last 20 or so minutes could have really been taken a little bit more length, but it wasn't bad. It was just rushed.
Well, it's hard to know how that is, whether that was in the original script or if
Right, right.
maybe executive retooling after the fact. I mean, there was a bunch of people who had hands on this movie, not just the director and the writer, but like Jordan Peele, who also was a co-writer on it, also
Mhm.
produced and through his company, and then
Yeah.
it went through Universal, so they may have had some say on the matter as to like tuning it, and like audience testing and everything else, which they do with every movie now.
Sure, sure.
That might have changed some stuff. So who knows if maybe the first act was shorter and the third act was longer initially, or what?
Nah.
It never felt prey to the fact. Never felt like it fell prey to the idea of it explained too much.
True, that's true.
Yeah.
It didn't really feel like it bogged down at any point. There
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like moments of over explanation.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of they give you just enough to kind of keep you on that hook baited. Even though you kind of see what's coming a little bit because I mean, it's what the movie is.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, and that's it. End of the day. Like, the biggest complaint I have about it is the characters going, "Hey, let's say Candyman." I'm sitting there going, "No, no,
Yeah.
right there, we're already done." And okay. This is a trope of I've watched a lot of black horror and black cinema. I
Hmm.
deep down, I have a deep abiding love of black exploitation horror.
Hmm.
Blackula, Blackenstein, all those characters. I
Hmm.
love them and I love watching them. But you watch enough of those with the right crowd, and normally it's the black people that show up. You go and see The Blackening in theaters, and I'm like the only white dude there. Okay, and I have no problem with that. I think it's fucking great. You listen to them,
Yeah.
and they're hilarious while they're watching the movie, because they react totally
Yes.
different than the way white people do. And like, you hear
Yes.
comedians say this kind of thing, you're like, "Oh, that's funny," and then you go and you listen, and you're like, "No, no, No, this is actual truth that we're all just
Yes.
laughing at now. But yeah, their
Yes.
commentary while doing it, like, you listen to them while you're watching Candyman, and they're like, I ain't saying that, no! And then to have
It's
some,
like
yeah,
Brenda from like Scary Movie. Don't
yeah,
go in there. What
yeah,
you
right,
doing?
right. But no, and then
Yeah,
you have
yeah,
the black lead character within like 5 minutes of hearing Candyman going, "Let's go look in the mirror and let's say," like, no,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
that is where my suspension of disbelief is gone. The rest of the
yeah.
movie, Candyman, all of that, excellent. Dude saying Candyman into the mirror while he's black, I don't buy it.
Yeah, it was an interesting choice, and I guess that like there was a lot of I felt like there was a parallel here to like pull from another movie from about 20 years, like Freddy versus Jason,
Mhm.
where Freddy loses his power when people don't speak his name and they forget about him. That's almost kind of what happened here
Mhm.
until they start bringing the lore of Candyman back and start getting the name back out there into people's mouths so they can kind of speak about him again, which gives him his power, which I thought was really cool at some points in the movie where like you kind of got the impression that like maybe he wasn't strong enough, like you can only see him at certain points. And I thought the cinematography and shots were really cool with how they did like some of the kills and some of the way they kind of like the less is more, like kind of thing, like the mirror things they did were just I thought were very interesting.
Yes, I liked it. I liked it a lot. Although I will admit that over the last few months, I also did burn through the second and third movies, and
Mm,
anything is gonna be better in comparison to that.
true.
Oh
And
my god!
overall, pretty good movie. Was impressed because we've watched some pretty bad horror stuff. We watched Borderlands recently, which was also
Which is
quite
a
lovely.
horror by a different measure.
Yeah, but I was impressed with this. The requel don't always do well.
Mm.
They can also get caught with their pants down of doing too much fan service, too much homage to the original. I thought they balanced it very well, and maybe that's with the length of the movie. Maybe it's with just like the dedication to the craft, because the people that worked on this really gave a shit about what they were doing.
Mhm.
So that was impressive.
I think it helps that they set it up in such a way that you really couldn't deeply homage the original movie. Like,
Hmm.
by grace of the fact that having a primarily black cast with a black lead male in the role of the guy dealing with the Candyman thing, as
Hmm.
opposed to a white woman with a primarily white cast on
Yeah.
one side, like going into the ghetto, like it completely changes the contextualization of it and just shifts where the story can go. Even if they wanted to duplicate ideas, which they kind of did at times, there's
Sure.
only so far you could push it because you're coming at it from a different place to begin with.
Right. Right.
hmm So, but yeah, no, I thought it was interesting. I think like I would love to see sequels to this, even if
Hmm.
like now they have to use a different actor in place of Tony Todd because sadly, rip Tony Todd.
Sadly, yeah. I
One
mean,
of
he did miss. Could have used a little more,
hmm
but I understand. I'll just leave it at that.
yeah, no, it's I kind of get like why they didn't put him in more because they want him to
Sure.
be a shape, a shadow,
Yeah.
not visible very often. They did kind
Hmm.
of like muddy the waters a bit there, but I think it was specifically for the mythology of it to kind
Hmm.
of like build it out more. And whether or not they expected Tony Todd to die down the road, at least
Yeah.
building substitute characters and other people that can take over the mythology, I think
Hmm.
was an interesting idea.
Yeah, for sure.
hmm
I do enjoy like the mythology at the end too. Like there was
hmm
really cool scenes in here with like the shadow puppets and the
Yeah,
lighting with that. Like that was very cool. And the end credits, if you when you guys make
stunning.
it to the end of the movie, the end credits are brilliant.
Oh, they
Like
are.
definitely watch them. Don't turn it off.
hmm
Watch them. It's
Yeah.
really good.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. Like the end
Mhm.
credits gave me chills. They were
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah.
yeah. It's amazing how creepy you can get with just
hmm
2D pictures.
And the story they managed to tell with it
Right?
just being like just the creepy Candyman music and just the
Yeah.
shadow puppetry without anything else. That was
Mhm.
amazing.
Yeah, it was really good, and
Yeah.
like kind of really gave you more deep dive into the lore and the
hmm
multiple versions of Candyman that's existed, and
That they want
kind
to
of
set
puts
up.
like
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so like almost puts faces to names and stuff like that. Like it's really kind of cool, and it was really well done. And it was an impressive movie overall. I'm used to a lot of bullshit and a lot of bad horror movies that I love to this day. Anyway, this one was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
When you said Candyman, I was like, man, the original's good. The other
Yeah.
ones suck. I'm like, requels,
Yeah.
but I'll
Whatever.
watch it for you and for the cause and
Yep.
for the content. this was a good one.
Yep.
This was good.
But yeah, no, I think that's one of the things I liked about that ending is what it added to it, because like it's hinted at during the movie itself, but the ending, the end credits, make it more explicit about what the mythology is that they're actually building, and
Mm-hmm.
it also essentially retcons away the second and third movies entirely. Like it doesn't say they can't exist, but it doesn't need them in the continuity at all in any way.
Yeah, it's probably a good
It's
thing too.
for the
Probably for the
best.
best. Probably.
Yes, it's absolutely
Yeah.
for the best. Those movies are trash. I was watching the thing that I love best is I watched the third movie, and the
Mhm.
third movie takes like so. The second movie introduces a white woman in New Orleans, and then the third movie is her daughter, who's also, of course, connected to Candyman, because dumb bitches keep saying Candyman into a mirror.
Dumb bitches do dumb bitch
Oh my
things.
god, stop saying Candyman into a mirror. Okay, people? Seriously. Have we
Yeah.
learned nothing? But no,
Zero.
like, she says it, but because it's the daughter, and she's, like, in her 30s, the movie is set in the 2020s, basically. But
Mm-hmm.
the thing I loved is because it was filmed in 1997, you can see calendars on the wall saying 1997. Someone
Yeah.
didn't pay attention to continuity in their props,
Mm-hmm.
and it
Mm-hmm.
ruins the what little immersion there was is ruined in the movie. Like,
And it's not even like a fun Easter egg too. Like,
no,
the one that everybody knows is, the original Halloween set in Haddonfield, Illinois, but the license plates are all California.
yep,
Like
yep,
that's a whoopsie moment, and it's beloved to this day.
yeah.
Like that's just lazy. The
Well,
calendars.
yeah, the calendars is just super lazy because it's like you didn't even have to have the set dressing of the calendar up there. You could have put
Yeah.
anything. You could have taped over the year if you were paying
Yeah.
attention, or you could have just
Yep.
put up a poster, a little
Yeah.
cat hanging on a branch saying "Hang in there." You
Yeah.
any of those. You didn't need a calendar, but then to put the calendar up and not notice the year is 1997 on it. That's fucking lazy as shit.
Yeah, it's not paying attention to your editing. Like, with the Halloween one, like, it was, we shot this entire movie and we missed this. Whoops. And hopefully nobody will notice.
Yeah,
With
yeah.
this one, it just like they just weren't paying attention.
Yeah, no. At that point, why would they? It was the third Candyman. It was going direct to video, and no one gave a shit anyway.
Yeah, maybe we can make enough money to buy the calendars that we spent on this. Who knows?
I kind of doubt they did. They didn't make
Uh,
a fourth one, so I doubt it made much money.
yeah, and I think to your point, Tony Todd as a villain deserved a little bit better
hmm
for a franchise than what he got. Now he
Yeah,
had a very successful acting career,
he did.
was in a lot of great things. He was in The Rock, he was in a bunch of other movies. He's a great voice actor too, but like definitely like this was kind of I think his like what he's known for
hmm
aside from some voice acting is like this role, and I wish it was a little bit of a better end result for the franchise than we got. The first movie was great, a good homage in this one to him and all that, but like
Would have loved to have him come back for a bigger role in a
yeah,
sequel.
for
Yeah,
sure, and we're
yeah.
not going to get that, and it's sad
No.
and all that, but you know what, we'll always have the original, and
hmm
that'll always be there, and
Yeah.
rest in peace, good sir.
Yeah, and I definitely don't want them like trying to CGI him back to life for a fifth one.
No,
No, no. You
we've
have a
seen that.
you have a good excuse to replace him with someone else and have it in continuity. You can just
Yeah.
put a little end credit on there for our friend Tony Todd, and you leave it at that, and you do nothing.
Yeah.
If you bring him back at all, it's as a painting that you have as a prop. Because
Yes.
you've
Yeah.
that's been established in continuity. You can bring one of those prop paintings back and have them exist the way they are. But
Mhm.
let's not pull a General Tarkin, Admiral,
Admiral
Commander,
Tarkin. Yeah. Or Commander Tarkin.
Fleet Commander
Fleet,
Tarkin.
yeah. Fleet Commander. There you go. Like, and we'll cover this another time. And no ad from the most recent Alien either, please. That was another one where it's like
do we
it's 2025, people.
do we need to
We gotta
talk
do
about
better.
that?
We can. We'll do an Alien one in a different point. We're not going to go over that. I think today we'll stick on the Candyman thing. But I mean, to your point, like don't
The
get
Tarkin.
sucked into it.
Yeah, don't
get
do a
sucked into it.
Tarkin.
Don't do it.
They've done that with a few different actors, and it's not right. And like,
Yeah.
they don't need to in Candyman. They absolutely don't at this point because they have it set up to do someone else instead, and it's fine.
Yeah, and I'd be okay with that. Like
Mhm.
I'm okay with this next generation of villain, this shape, this entity,
Mhm.
this force
The
that just,
Force, yeah,
I'm cool with that. We don't need, the fan service. Don't make that mistake if we get another one, please.
yeah, absolutely. No, I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I liked this. I thought it was a good way to bring the franchise back around and take it in a
Hmm.
direction that doesn't just involve dumb white girls saying Candyman into mirrors and then suffering for the consequence. We saw that. We saw that three
Yeah,
times. That was enough.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
this was good.
This hit on a lot of social issues too.
Mm-hmm.
It's a movie, like I said, that today would get roasted if it came
Maybe.
out compared.
And
Maybe
like
not, maybe, but I think
that's a point though, because like
yeah.
this has always been more of a traditionally black movie. It's never considered
Hmm.
black exploitation in the way like
Sure.
70s horror was, but it still ties into that same genre and plays on the same like political ideas and so forth that were
Yeah.
brewing under the surface. So like I I think the people that are going to see Candyman or would bitch about Candyman were never the people that were going to like either see the movie or were going to complain about it. Essentially, like
Yeah.
the black audience was going to show up because it's Candyman, and the white
Yeah.
audience was going to complain and never watch it anyway.
Yeah, this if you my wife used this phrase when we were talking about the Super Bowl
Yep.
halftime show. If you didn't get it, it wasn't for you.
Yeah, and it doesn't
This
have to
movie,
be.
yeah, and you can just enjoy a good movie. Like if you don't get everything behind it, that's fine, but can you enjoy the movie?
Yeah.
And that's what that this was an enjoyable movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that like if people take it at face value for that and can kind of appreciate the message it's trying to get across, then we're all the better for it as a society. But people aren't going to do that. They're going to find flaws and rip things apart because that's just the climate we live in now. And it's sad, but things like this should be around. There should be people that are comfortable enough to make movies that can kind of call things the way they are. The gentrification of Cabrini Green was talked about back in the first movie, and you really kind of saw it here. They kind of wanted to have the place and the ambiance of the location almost feel like a character in the movie too, and it
Mm-hmm.
had moments where it did.
Mm-hmm. A thing that I really just enjoyed from that whole political perspective, getting back to the idea that only white people die in this movie, is like traditionally you have a black character in a slasher movie, they're the
Yeah,
ones that die.
yeah.
No token black people this time.
No,
No,
no. The heroine gets away. The
spoiler.
hero has his day or whatever, and it is it's a neat little twist to what the expected genre kind of spit out over the last
Mm-hmm.
15-20 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no need to shove in a white friend to make it better for
Yeah,
white audiences or anything like that.
right.
Like, no, no. It stuck to its guns, and I really appreciated that.
The majority of white people in this movie too were just they're just assholes. It's just the police are assholes. The art gallery owner is an asshole. The person who wants to buy the paintings and talk to Anthony in the middle there, great death scene there by the way,
Mm-hmm.
is an asshole. Like it's just they really kind of leaned into like the man being a dick, and I can appreciate that a little bit. I really can.
It all builds on that myth that's built around the Candyman at this point as
Yep.
well. That I thought, yeah, again, it all works really well. Like self-contained mythologizing that still works fairly well with the first film while finding its own path.
Yeah, and a very neat little bow they tied around things when you kind of get the reveal at the end of who he is, what he's about,
Mm-hmm.
where he comes from. It was pretty cool. Like I was like, oh, so you're doing okay?
Yeah,
I can dig that.
it
I
was a
can dig
lot.
it.
Yeah, no, it definitely.
Mm.
So yeah, again, I hope there's a sequel.
Yeah,
It made enough money technically to make one, although they've never committed to it. Like, and I think part of the problem is the fact that if you let it go for too long, then the good buzz from this is going to die off, and
yeah.
then why make another one at that point with the crew? You just end up spinning off to do something different again, which might not be as good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see. I mean, Jordan Peele does some really good stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and he has his hands in a lot of things, and
Mm-hmm.
it's someone I don't mind having attached to this franchise. That can
Oh yeah,
maybe in 3-5 years just pull some. Hey, let's do this again. Let's have some
mm-hmm.
fun with it. I'd watch it.
Yeah. He gained some trust from me after Get Out and
Yeah,
Nope and all those.
yeah,
Those
yeah.
weren't bad. Not all of his movies work perfectly for me.
Right. Sure.
The one with the weird mirror clones.
Oh yeah, like Us or whatever it was called.
Us.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was okay.
Us
It was
was
okay.
like you could see my brain is like it was a good enough movie, but what was it called again?
Yeah, there's a lot of like. Sometimes in movies like that, they make you think a little too much, and they kind of drop a little too much mythology on you. And that was one
It
of
was a
them.
lot.
It was a lot to
It was a
take
lot.
in. It was a
Yeah.
fun movie, but it was a lot to digest.
That definitely a lot. Definitely had a lot going on, and maybe
Yeah.
was too big an idea for the story he could tell it. Like
Mm.
it was a Twilight Zone episode, like writ large, and maybe written just a little too large.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
But this Candyman, like railed it back enough that even with its interesting world building and mythology building, it stayed on point.
Yeah, it did. It really hung on to that message. It really kind of drove across the theme of what this villain is, what this entity is, where it comes from, gives you the history, expands on some things, and gave you just some great depths along the way. Like, you know, there was quite a few really cool ones in there.
Yes. Okay, so we will mourn the loss of Tony Todd, but hope that a sequel comes out with new characters for the next generation. And with that, we will try not to go get killed in a bathroom. I'm your host, Mike Finkelstein.
I'm gonna go run to the store and get a candy bar. You want one?
Say it 5 times. We will see you all next time.